Okay, Rage.
Rage review.
Rage. ABC show. Rage.
Oh, that was only an Australian thing.
Rage. Come on and say good day.
Rest in peace, Bob Hawke, by the way.
Oh, yes.
You will be missed. This
You
is
will.
no trolling. We fucking loved you. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on into the Rage thing.
Okay, wow,
So-
great segue, Sam. Rage 2 came out.
We're not talking about Colgate today, everyone, alright?
No
Colgate
Colgate
talk,
memes.
okay?
I used to be able to make coherent sentences. Then I tried Colgate. Colgate. For morons.
Even though I do retain that there was some factual... I don't know what I was talking about, but there's
Absolutely
something in there,
no
okay?
logic whatsoever.
I still stand by what I
A new
said.
meme is born. We need to get Colgate merch now.
Yes!
Okay, so Rage 2 came out this week. We didn't get an advance copy because
Very strange. It
like
must be
us,
lost in the mail.
Jim Sterling, Angry Joe, Yong none of these guys that shat all over Fallout 76.
Young didn't get one either?
Ended up he didn't. Ended
my
up
boy.
getting a Rage 2 copy because we're all on the blacklist now.
Sure.
Very happy to be there. So he started playing it this week. I played it on stream. Gotta say, pretty disappointed with it on balance. It's got some fantastic fucking qualities.
Should we drop it first round?
Okay, let's
Should
do
we
it.
drop it?
Okay, so look.
Let's start with the world. Let's
start with the world, yeah.
I feel like Ralph's getting to the end, alright? Ralph's usually gets to the end quite quickly, okay, people? Now let's get to the world. What did you think of the world?
What did you think of the world, Sam?
Okay, I found that the world, in my opinion,
I
personally believe.
very early on, you can see that this is actually a very empty world, and sure, it's post-apocalyptic, but there's a way to do that, I think. I mean, I think Far Cry actually did that really well. You go into a world and you feel like everything is very deliberate, where here it feels like there's a lot of reused assets and just things thrown everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very bland. A lot of areas definitely have this canyon thing where you can... If you drive off, you kind of die. And that, I think, is them trying to make the map look bigger. And in reality, it's a lot smaller than it actually is. And I think if you go through the world, I was expecting Rage to have a lot of life, a lot of like fighting spirit everywhere you looked, of people wanting to like survive this post-apocalyptic, this post-apocalyptic world. Got it out. But really, there's barely anybody around. There's barely anything happening. And between the objectives, it's a really bland and boring world.
Yeah,
environmentally and geographically.
Yeah, I was really surprised. There's just nothing going on in this space. It just feels so lifeless, you know, and as I said, you said Far Cry, absolutely. You go around the world of Far Cry, there's always shit going down. It's always interesting to stop by the roadside and explore and take on these guys or whatever else. There's just no reason to stop while you're driving in Rage. There's no, and sometimes you'll arrive at these like clusters of buildings and there's nothing in them. They're just big empty buildings with like a few supplies or whatever, and they're massive complexes of like dozens of buildings, and you're like, why does this exist? Why is this here? And it's not like something spawns there later on. It's literally just there on the map, empty, and I'm like, okay, this is super weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the whole thing just feels very unlived in. And I get it, it's a wasteland, sure. But there's a balance, and this game did not strike.
There's definitely a way to do that, and I think that if you're going to have such interesting types of enemies, in certain missions and stuff, like the large trolls, or there's certain bosses that come along and you go, that's really cool, love the design, really fits into this world, this mutant world, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see incentives to explore this world and kill large enemies that maybe took a bit of time, that maybe really have to use my arsenal of different types of abilities. And really, give me something quite interesting in that world that was, brought on by this apocalypse in terms of like mutant giants and shit. You don't see that. You see a few like basic bitch dudes like running around. You can just ride over them. But that's pretty much it, really, in terms of world.
Yeah, and I think as well, that beyond it feeling empty, I think the whole game lacks personality, which is something I was really surprised about. Because if you looked at all the like edgy marketing and the trailers and shit,
Edgy tweets.
you got a feeling that this is a world that was going to be really funny and cool and like surprising, but it's just not. Like, it's just, none of the NPCs really have interesting lines of dialogue that you sort of bump into and you're like, hey, that's awesome. None of them have enough sort of presence for you to really want to see more of them. The enemy, the NPCs that you're fighting, they just don't really say or do anything notable. it's just like they're all silent all the time. They don't say anything cool, and it just feels like with a palette like that, you could do so much cool, funky, weird, off the wall shit, and this game does nothing with it.
I think, though, I will disagree in the way that I think aesthetically they've really nailed it. I think that
nice,
aesthetically, the enemies, the character design, everything in general, when you look at it and you see the madness of some of these kind of rooms that you walk into, that is spot on for me. Like, there is definitely some moments in the story where I'm like, cool, I love the madness around here when you are talking to that guy that quite heavy with blonde hair. I don't know what he looks like, right? And he has the little fan and shit. Like, you walk into that room and there's firecrackers going off and stuff like this. There's definitely moments where I'm like, cool, Rage has got it. You know, it's working here aesthetically.
Aesthetically, yes, but as I said, it's skin deep.
Did you find that the amount of times I tried to hide load times behind elevators?
Oh yeah, they're big into that.
God damn, man! If you're expecting, just this game is elevator simulator.
It's like it's like Mass Effect 1.
It's just so many. Hey, this isn't a load time. Promise. I mean, that's all good. I know you've got to load some shit, but there's interesting ways to do that, I think.
Yeah.
And again, I think that kind of ties into this whole like. I felt it was very lazy. I felt that a lot of times this game just felt on the lazy side. Again, with the canyon thing, make it look bigger, this environment, but it's not really. The dialogue, as you were saying, I don't feel like there's a lot of time, love, and effort into those interactions that I would have liked to see. You know?
Yeah, I mean, lazy is a very strong word to use. I think they had a very constrained scope. And they said, these are the things that we're doing, these are the things that we're not doing. I think one of the things they decided was that this was going to be an open world, grindy game. You know, like your old classic Far Cry's, where there's just lots of markers on the map and you got to go clear them out. And that ultimately is what this game is, okay? To be clear, I played this game on stream for the first half, or the first 4 hours, then I stopped, and I'd done all the campaign missions I could do to that point. I then went home, and I learned when I got home that I needed to grind up reputation with 3 NPCs to like level 5 to be able to continue the campaign. So I did that. That took me like another 3 or 4 hours. And then I came back onto stream and I did the other missions to finish the game, and that took me about another 2 and a bit hours. So you're looking at about 6 hours worth of campaign missions and 4 hours of forced open world grind. So the whole campaign experience is 10 hours long. 6 hour story, 4 hours forced open world grind. And then after that, there's tons of markers to explore on the map. Okay, so that's structurally how this game works.
I think that when I saw that whole reputation level 5, I was like, this is Anthem all over again. That huge kind of quest chain that really just wants you to explore this world. So I understand why they did that, and I didn't mind doing that, to be honest, because I you know, it's good to give me objectives to why I need to explore this world. But when I say that, I would finish that with saying it's sad that they need to do that, because the world itself is not interesting enough that you're like, I want to go out and fucking explore this place, you know? When you need to put quest chains like Anthem did, a very similar world too, very boring and meaningless, it means that you haven't incentivized the player enough to go out and do that.
I think the principal difference, as I said in my review that went up this morning on Skill Up,
don't check it out,
is that this is actually fun where Anthem wasn't.
Sure,
right?
This is definitely fun. I would say that I enjoy this game quite a lot still.
Yeah, and this is the saving grace of this game, right? I mean, I know we've been shitting on it up to this point, but we need to pivot now and talk about the fact that the combat is fucking awesome.
Incredible.
Like, it's so good. As soon as you step into this game and pick up your first weapon, it feels fantastic. The arsenal of weapons and the way they are designed is superb. You're talking about id Software, the guys that made Doom. I mean, they're the best in the business.
Totally.
Some of the best in the business. They're right up there with, you know, I'm going to say Destiny with weapon design. Okay, I know that triggers a lot of people.
But it's true,
Say
though.
what you will about Bungie, man, but they know how to make a gun in a video game, right?
Yeah.
And so do id. They know what they're doing. It feels absolutely perfect. And I mean, I loved playing the shooting in this game. The powers as well I really enjoyed. I felt like they weren't as satisfying to use as the weapons were, but they were still nice to sort of mix in with the rhythm of combat. I enjoyed them. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this is a game you could absolutely just play for the combat for 15 to 20 hours. And there's every chance you'll love it because the combat is that good. You know?
Yeah, I think that the combat, you're right. Like, that is the reason that why I'm like, you know what, I actually really do like this game. It has a lot of glaring imperfections, but I've just thoroughly enjoyed this game still. Even when I say maybe the story is lazy and the environment itself is quite lazy, I'm always looking forward to the next time I get to pull out my gun and shoot some people. Like,
sure.
And I've really enjoyed this game. So I really wanted to like this game. That's the thing. Like, when we heard about it, we played at E3 last year. Like, up until this point, I've always been like, cool, we love you, Bethesda, of course, but this is a game I really hope that I like. And I still enjoy this game, but they haven't really known their strengths. This is the thing that's really... Like, what I've taken away from this is they haven't played to their strengths. It should have been a co-op game, number one. It should have been something that both people have to jump in together, explore this world, kill enemies together, use the environment in a way that you can use another player to kind of clear areas and make it more interesting that way. And I also think...
Co-op would have made this game way more fun.
Sure.
Way more fun. I just think it's such an oversight to not include it.
Yeah, and I think that also, I mean, the weapon mechanics, the aesthetically cool theme, the environments themselves, I mean, it's already kind of there. To not put a multiplayer... I just think that could have given this review, this could have given a lot of publications, instead of a 7, it probably ended up being maybe an 8.5 if they just included stuff that's already there and it's so right for it. Like, it's so perfect for this type of game.
And this comes back to my earlier point about, like, scope. Okay, I think these guys had a very clear, scope for what they set out to do here. They said, we're going to take id Software's combat, we're going to put that into the Avalanche open world template, and that's it, you know. Because if you do stuff like, you know, co-op and online multiplayer, it really increases your development costs because you need to start thinking about online infrastructure, etc.
Yeah.
So that's like, we're not going to do that. When you talk about story and voice acting and all that stuff, that increases your budget substantially. So we're not going to do that. You know, when we talk about more complex mission design, that's not just like clear this camp and then clear that camp and then clear that camp. That again, obviously increases development time, requires more designers, etc., etc. I feel as though these guys just said, here's the game we're making, that's it. And I think for, you know, in most regards, the game is pretty good. In some regards, the game is exceptional, like its combat.
Sure.
And in some regards, I think it's generic / disappointing, like in its presentation, its story, and its open world structure.
Yeah, I feel like this game really says to me that Bethesda was like, well, we didn't have a huge success with Rage 1. Let's back this game, but let's back it to a point. That's what it kind of feels like to me, you know?
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. It does feel like,
I think
a
that,
controlled risk in
yeah,
terms
they
of
were
their
like,
investment in it.
Yeah, they were like, we know that this IP might have legs, but the previous one didn't really sell as well. Let's just give this a go. So I think that if this sells really well, and I don't think it's going to... We've already seen what the reviews are coming back in, and I think it's pretty fair to say that it is between the 7-ish. Like, it's a competent game. There's no glaring bugs. It works quite well. It's a pleasant experience, you know, but don't expect this to be like, whoa, this is incredible. And it's not a fully realized vision, I think.
And I think as well, like, this could be a fantastic setup for a Rage 3.
Sure.
If you took these ideas that they've got here and actually made a really compelling game out of it, you know, if you took this combat and combined that with a better open world, a better story, better characters, man, you just...
and co-op and multiplayer.
It would be incredible.
Yeah,
and,
it really would.
And so, look, I personally would look forward to a Rage 3 if I can see during the build-up that they're addressing these issues.
Yeah.
But right now, I think it's a real wait-for-sale kind of item. I think if you bought this $15 to $20, you'd enjoy it for 6 to 10 hours, you'd have a good time, and you'd feel like you got your money's worth.
Yeah.
There's also microtransactions. Lol.
Lol.
They're just cosmetic. They're garbage. It's a complete scam. Just skip them.
Yeah, of course.
But look, overall, I think Rage is perfectly fine, but not remarkable. And I personally would just look forward to a really cool Rage 3.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, your comment about $20. Look, I actually think, look, if you got it for $40, you're still getting your money's worth. It's not $80 to people. I saw it in Australian dollars for $99.
I paid $100.
I was like, bitch, please. Like, I'm not paying... I did pay that, fine. But like, I had to. But, you know, in reality, this is probably a $40 to $50 game. It's very competent in a lot of ways. But again, it's lazy in other ways. And just in environmentally, especially, it's an open world. It really let itself down there. So... all in all, give it a go, for sure. But, again, don't expect, you know, this to be Doom Eternal. Which I'm expecting to be amazing,
It will be
okay?
amazing.
It's already going to be amazing, okay?
That's it for the episode. Tomorrow we're going to do Laymen Live. Our first episode is going to be at 8 o'clock in the morning, Sydney time. You can do the time conversions. You'll get a notification.
Sydney.
We go like, hit the bell.
Is there many Sydneys in the world? I think there's another...
There's one in Canada? I
Yeah,
think,
there's
or
another
something?
one. Okay, we're not in Canada, okay? We're in Dallas,
Australia,
Texas.
mate.
Now we're in Australia. So that's...
Land of Bob Hawk.
Yes, it is.
Land of Bob Hawk.
And with that, we say goodbye.